All right, let's then move on to the next order of business here on News at Prime. And we're going to wrap up the day with a conversation with KwaZulu-Natal. And the Premier there, Thami Ntuli, and members of his executive have unveiled their 5-year economic recovery plan. The province battling billions worth of irregular expenditure, which the Premier pins on the previous administration. Now, the departments that were severely affected include the health and education. Let's speak now to the KZN Finance MEC Francois Rodgers, who joins me in studio tonight. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very much for traveling all the way from KZN. Let's deal with how you see things panning out in KZN. And those two departments, they clearly stand out. Let's start with the education department. Do they still have to consult with the Treasury, your department, before they spend anything? Is that still the status quo?
Good evening, Claudia, and good evening to the viewers. Good to be here. Look, I think we must remember too that we've inherited an historical problem of budget cuts. You remember for years we went through funding state-owned entities, and the province of KwaZulu-Natal suffered cuts to its equitable share to the tune of 80 billion rand over 8 years. Also, we ended up in a situation in the previous administration where compensation of employees, the increase was unfunded. The province had to fund it. We were also left a lame duck by the president, then President Zuma, who gave us an unfunded mandate to pay Izinduna 250 million rand. So we've inherited a problem. And I think this fiscal recovery plan is a step in towards normalizing our fiscus, because our baseline has never come back. Now, the Department of Education, I think it's out there now, and everyone's got a bit over it. Section 18(2)G intervention, which means Treasury assists the department, and any expenditure needs to be approved. There's nothing sinister or political about it. It's purely a step to normalize the situation. My biggest fear is that taking the historical cuts, the departments that were the most affected are our frontline departments: education, health, social development. And those are critical departments. So this fiscal recovery plan is to protect those frontline departments. That is my sole purpose in this exercise.
Education, you mentioned it as one of those frontline departments. It surely would have come as a welcome development that the SIU recently saying that the 16 officials who were responsible for a particular tender, those have to be disciplined by the MEC, and that includes paying back or recouping the money from the contractor in question. Was that a welcome development for you?
Absolutely. I feel vindicated because I still believe that, there's a culture of not respecting the value of money in some of our departments and spending money when it's not backed by cash in the bank. That's one of the other challenges. We have officials in the province who will say, but MEC, it's in our budget. And then when I say, but do you have the cash to back up that budget? And then there's a blank, there's a blank look. And we have to stop that culture of expenditure.
Transport is another department. Yes, you've not mentioned it as frontline, but it's had its own problems as well. What's the situation right now?
Well, I think MEC Duma has certainly taken some action. There's been challenges with the scholar transport, the tender process, and MEC Duma, alerted Cabinet to some of those challenges. Now, that process now has to go to arbitration, which is a facility that Treasury, which I have the arbitrator appointed, which looks at the tender process and the appeals in those tender process. So once that process is concluded, I'll be able to give feedback. Very much the same with the National School Nutrition Program, which we know there were also some issues raised there. That's also going through to the bid appeals tribunal.
The status of the head of Department of Transport, what is the status of that person right now as to their employment?
Khuli, I always believe you should stay in your lane. I'm not the Premier, so I can't talk about heads of department, and I'm obviously not the MEC of Transport. But I believe he's on suspension pending an investigation.
Yeah. All of these developments, Mr. Rodgers, they, in a way, impact politically because the two departments we've spoken about that clearly have been problematic, they are run by ANC candidates or ANC executives. And it feels that it is being particularly targeted. So naturally, the conversation moves to the politics of things. What is the situation right now? I know that recently there has been talk that there may be some friction, particularly from the benches of the ANC, but do you believe that they are still as committed to the government of provincial unity?
Again, I can't really talk for the ANC. I can talk from my own perspective.
Yeah.
I've made it very clear that our biggest challenges are health and education. The fact that the ANC run by ANC MECs is of no concern to me. It's the actual department and it's the recipients of that service that I'm trying to protect. And I think I've made that very, very clear, which is why I'm also looking at the budget methodology. This historical form of budgeting, what we spent last year, we'll add on CPI, that's not going to work for us. If we want to get health and education out of the mess, we need to establish what their true baseline budget is, and then we need to make sure we give them enough money to effect that particular service. That is what I'm doing. I've had some run-ins with the MEC of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. So I'm certainly not, I'm not here to pick on any particular person.
Yeah.
I want to turn KZN around financially.
As I say, MEC, the conversation naturally progresses to the politics of the day. You and the IFP have been painted as bedfellows who are out to get others in the province, and this perhaps has precipitated what appears to be a motion of no confidence against the Premier that is coming up. Are you confident of the stability of the provincial government of unity in KZN?
I'm absolutely confident of the current stability of the government of provincial unity. If you look where we were 5, 6, 7 years ago, and you do the comparative now, we've definitely turned the corner. We've already started rolling out this financial recovery plan. Between last year and this year, we're already seeing a remarkable difference, and I think that stability is there. You know, the government of provincial unity is a whole new animal in politics for us. And it's going to take a bit of argy-bargy because we're not all out of the same political stable. But at the end of the day, I believe the government of provincial unity has proven it's more stable than the government of national unity.
So you are confident sitting here right now that Premier Ntuli is going to survive this motion of confidence if indeed it does come in 5 days' time, I think?
Well, again, Khuli, I don't have a crystal ball. So in my conversations, and if one looks at the Constitution, now this motion of no confidence is in terms of the Constitution. Section 181(2) of the Constitution is very specific. If there's a motion of no confidence brought against the Premier, it's specific, the Premier, then it has to be supported by the majority of the numbers of the members in that legislature. We have 80 members, an 80-member seat. A majority is 41 seats. 41 seats. You do the maths. 37 MK, 2 EFF, 1 NFP. If it goes that way, it's not the majority. Do you have IFP people that jump the ship or the ANC? I don't believe so.
I can't let you go without talking about the state of the Democratic Alliance, the leadership. I know you come from a province, but the leader, the national leader of the DA, also happens to come from the same province. In fact, you'd know him better than most. Can we deal with what has been said about him and his poor management of his own personal affairs? Has this affected his credibility as a leader, you believe?
Kholi, again, you know, I mean, do you know anything about my personal finances? You know, I might also owe money on my credit card. I might be 2 months in arrears on my bond, whatever it might be. You know, I don't think we need to get caught up in what is sensationalized politics, in my opinion. You must remember we're coming up to a Congress next year. You know, the timing of some of the information that's suddenly coming to the fore is questionable. But having said that, I also believe as leaders, you know, we need to lead by example. You know, I think all of us need to, we're the principles of people that follow us and believe in us.
Finally, I'm letting you go, I promise. When the writers, the opinion makers, write about the Democratic Alliance right now, and they seem to suggest that there's a leadership crisis at national level, do you concur with that? Is the DA right now in need of a change of leadership?
Kholi, perhaps I can answer it from my province, from KZN's perspective. And I'm often asked the question, you no doubt know that I'm not standing for re-election in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And people say to me, but who's going to replace you? And therein lies the question. You are going to replace me. You need to put up your hand. Young people, we need to make space. I'm making space for young people that have been nurtured, that need to come to the front so that we get new ideas, new energy, and a new invigoration. And from a national and from a party perspective, nobody should be suppressed in putting their hand up and saying, you know what, I'm going to give it a go.
You're making it difficult for me to let you go now. And I'm eating on sports time. So what are you suggesting? That Jordan Hill-Lewis should be allowed to put up his hand and not say, I won't contest John Steenhuisen?
Anybody. If you're a member of the DA, you're in good standing, you believe you have the potential to lead the party at a very critical time, put up your hand. Don't be afraid to put up your hand.
Francois Rodgers, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
I think you've given us food for thought there. Thanks indeed for making it here. He is the MEC of Finance in KZN.